Dear friends, welcome back for the lecture. Today, as announced, we would be discussing uh, the Rathore rebellion and uh, the causes, the reasons why the Rathore rebellion occurred during the period of Aurangzeb. Before I start the topic, before I start dealing with the details, let me first give you a reading list. Uh, Naturally, uh, the basic source of information regarding everything concerned with Aurangzeb is Jadunath Sarkar. Uh, he is the pioneer, and in his uh, voluminous work, the Rathore rebellion has been dealt in quite some detail. Apart from that, there are certain other works which I would like to refer to you. Uh, I would refer M. Atharali's article, The Causes of the Rathore Rebellion of 1679, uh, which has been published in the Proceedings of the Indian History Congress, uh, 1961. That is a must for uh, every student of history, especially those uh, who want to deal with a secular scientific approach to history. This article is a must. M. Atharali, Proceedings of the Indian History Congress, 1961. Apart from that, there are two other works which I would refer to. If you are able to locate them, well and good. Um, in fact, the book which I am going to refer to you is available online. You can download it, you can read it, and that is the book of Robert C. Helise. And the title of the book is The Rajput Rebellion Against Aurangzeb, a study of the Mughal Empire in 17th century India. This book was published from Columbia and London in 1977. Not a very great book, but still, you would find almost everything dealing with the Rathors and the Rajputs and what happened during the period of Aurangzeb. That has been discussed in this work. And then there is an article by M.A. Rahim, which has been published in the Journal of the Asiatic Society of Pakistan. That was published in 1969. Emperor Aurangzeb's annexation of Jodhpur and the Rajput rebellion. As I said, that this article is in the Journal of the Asiatic Society of Pakistan, April 1969. That is also available in various libraries, in various collections. So, if you can get all these works, then it would be a great idea so that you may deal with this topic of Rathors and why and how they revolted against the Mughals during the period of Aurangzeb. Now, let us start with the topic after having informed you about the literature which is available on them. You know that the Rajputs started joining the Mughal service from the period of Akbar onwards. The house of Amir was one of the first Rajput house, the Rajput clan, to have joined the service of the Mughals of Akbar in 1561. With the joining of the Kachwahas, with the joining of Bharamal, later on we find that gradually and subsequently, almost the whole of the Rajputana, one after the other, started joining the Mughal service. And marriage alliances took place between the Mughals and these Rajputs. These Rajputs were not only assigned Watan Jagirs, but were also given proper mansabs and Jagirs throughout the empire. And very soon we know that uh, mm, from the period of Akbar onwards, the Rajputs became one of the major components of the Mughal nobility. In fact, they came to rival the position of the Turanis and Iranis. And along with Turanis and Iranis, the Rajputs were one of the three major, components of the cosmopolitan Mughal nobility, which was created from the period of Akbar onwards. By the time that we reach Aurangzeb, the Rajputs in the Mughal service continues, and if all those who have attended my classes or read Emma thoroughly, uh, all of them know that even under Aurangzeb, the overall, position of the Rajputs did not diminish. In fact, to an extent, it kept on increasing. More Rajputs were given high mansabs of 7,000, 8,000 than in the previous ages. We have also mentioned in the class, all those who have attended my class, that Aurangzeb's period also saw that just like in the case of Todarmal, now once again a Rajput was given the position of the Diwan of the empire. But one change took place. The houses and the families of the Rajputs who were in the Mughal service, uh, their positions kept on changing. For example, if under Akbar there were more Kachwahas, under Jahangir, for example, if Bundelas were very prominent, during the reign of Aurangzeb, there were three major Rajput principalities and households who emerged as very, very important. Uh, the the principality of Amir with Kachwahas, they continued. Um, then Marwar, that is Jodhpur, under the Rathores, and Mewar, you can say Udaipur, where the Sisodias were ruling. These three clans and these three principalities gained much prominence during the period of Aurangzeb. Almost the whole of Rajputana, uh, today we call it as Rajasthan, most of it, there these three clans were dominating. The area of Rajputana and the Rajputs had much importance as far as the Mughals were concerned. In fact, even under Aurangzeb, the importance of this region and these clans, these Rajputs, remained constant. Uh, Strategically, the importance of this area was that if one had to go from Agra and Delhi and Lahore to the port cities or to the places from where the European ships were coming laden with goods from Europe, the Gujarat area, all the trade routes were passing through the region of Rajputana. And these three places, whether it was the Amer region or Marwar or Mewar, these were the places which were crucially important as far as these trade routes were concerned. And we come to know through various travelers, through various accounts, that the various highways and roads which had been constructed, which existed and passed through these regions, were strategically very important and they had to be controlled. Now, all these regions were being controlled by the Mughals from a place known as Ajmer. Ajmer was a locality which was at equidistance from Amer, Mewar, and Marwar. So, what we find is that usually the Mughals or the Mughal emperor and the army would be placed there, and through that they would be controlling these trade routes and the relations between these three important principalities, the mutual uh, relations between these principalities were overlooked or were overseen by the Mughals by placing themselves at Ajmer. So Cambay, Surat, whatever Ahmedabad, whatever trade was coming from those regions to Agra or to Delhi or to Lahore, or whatever goods were being taken from the north to the Gujarat ports, were all passing through the Rajputana territory. Secondly, we should also remember that these routes which were passing from Marwar, Mewar, Amer, they were not only important from the viewpoint of trade and commerce, but they had another importance, and that was that all the ships for the Hajj would also start from Khambayat, Cambay, or Surat. And thus, if anyone from the Mughal Empire had to go for Hajj, they had to pass through these territories. So, even to control the Hajj, a control over these areas was almost a necessity as far as the Mughals were concerned. And lastly, the importance of the Rajputana was that it was providing much of the militia uh, which comprised the Mughal army. In fact, we would see ultimately when we are dealing with the consequences of the Rathore rebellion that once the Rajputs, the Rathors, the Sisodias to some extent were antagonized from the Mughals, the Mughal army started suffering in the northwest because the army which was needed in the Himalayan tracts, uh, they had to be trained in a warfare which suited the hills. And it was the Rajput soldiers coming, especially for example, the Sisodias, coming from the hilly regions, dry hilly regions of Rajputana, and they knew the art of Bargigiri, which they could have easily fought when the Yusufzai or the other Roshania and other, you know, revolts and rebellions and all sort of things started happening in the northeast, northwest. So, apart from trade and commerce, apart from the Hajj routes, the importance was of these regions of the Rajputs was that they were the main supply for the Mughal army as well. So they were crucially important for the Mughals, and that was one of the reasons why, till the very end, the Mughals and the Rajputs remained quite friendly. Um, Now, let us look at some other aspects before coming to the Rathore rebellion directly. Why did the problem arose? If the Rathors, the Sisodias, and the other Rajputs were so important, and for the Rajputs, the Mughal service was important, why the clash occurred? There was a certain perspective for that, due to which such an occurrence took place. The main character um, in all this was Jaswant Singh himself, the Maharaja of Jodhpur. Um, he became the ruler in 1638. And till 1678, in the very early 1679, he died. Um, so he was ruling over the territory. He was also a Mughal Mansabdar. If you remember the War of Succession, he was one of the important commanders of the imperial army which had been sent by Shah Jahan and Dara Shikoh to counter the approaching army of Aurangzeb and Prince Murad. He was crucially important, and one of the major armies was under his command. We also should remember that after Aurangzeb had become the king, a very high mansab of 8,000 had been given to Jaswant Singh. Apart from the Watan Jagir of Jodhpur, which he was enjoying. Around 1678, or a little before it, Jaswant Singh had been sent to Afghanistan in the region of Jamrud, and he had been leading a Mughal army at Jamrud. In fact, he died there. So he was one of those important military officers of Aurangzeb who was taking forward his forward policy towards the northwest. One thing which, if you study the period of Jaswant Singh and whatever happened after his death, one thing becomes apparent, that under these Rajputs, just like under the Mughals, there was no well laid down rule of succession. On paper, there was this law of primogeniture, the eldest son would succeed, but not necessarily so. No, that was a problem with the Mughals as well, and that is why the war of succession had taken place almost at every point when a Mughal emperor had died. Similarly, under the Rajputs, there was this problem. Although generally the eldest son could succeed, but it was not necessary. There were certain other conditions. I'll just inform you that it was not only at the time of the death of Jaswant Singh that this issue arose. The whole fight at the time of the Rathore rebellion was who would succeed Jaswant Singh. But that was not the first time that it was happening. Even at the time when Jaswant Singh had become the ruler of the Rathors, he emerged as the Rathore chieftain, succeeded his father in 1638. Even at that time, uh, things were not quite different from what happened at the time when he himself died. Just like at the time of his death, when there was no claimant to the throne, and if there was a claimant, he was a minor. We would come to that later. Suffice to say that even Jaswant Singh, when he succeeded his father, A, he was not the eldest son, and B, he was a minor. Among the Rajputs, sometimes preference would be given to the favorite son, whomsoever the ruler would want as the successor. Jaswant Singh had been chosen by his father, ignoring the elder brother. Maharaja Gaj Singh, instead of choosing his elder son, chose the younger brother. Not only that, sometimes we also get a reference that a successor could also be the brother's son. It was not necessary that it should only be the son of the dead ruler. Sometimes the younger brothers of the dead ruler could also claim the gaddi. We have the example of Ratan Singh, who was the son of Rana Sanga. Um, he deposed uh, the successor and became the ruler after Rana Sanga. So there was no well laid out rule, and it was all accepted by the Rajputs. Whosoever proved the worth would become the ruler. Further, it was also the case that the first wife of the Maharaja, the ruler of the clan, may not become the queen mother, in the sense that preference could be given to the other queen to whom a male child was born earlier. Now, all this was leading to much tension at the time of succession. Every time when a ruler would die, one of these Rajput chieftains would die, the succession would be a very tense affair. A male heir would be chosen, but it could be amongst many claimants. Sometimes, even when there was much clash, the claimant could also be the adopted son. The real son would be left behind, and the adopted son could become the ruler. Or, in case if there was no son, then an adopted child could also become the ruler. But by this time, at least by the time of Jaswant Singh, along with this, at least one thing had been decided. One thing had come to be established. And that was that whosoever would succeed would be considered a legal successor only after he received the final stamp of approval from the Mughal king, the Tika. Whosoever would succeed would get the acceptance, and only after the acceptance that he would become or considered the legitimate ruler, whatever the Rajputs may otherwise think about. For example, in the case of Jaswant Singh himself, as I said that he was a minor. He was a younger son and a minor son. His elder brother Amar Singh was there. But Amar Singh was disinherited by his father Gat Singh. And at the time when Gat Singh died, Jaswant Singh emerged instead of Amar Singh to occupy the throne. And the first thing which he did after coming to the throne was that he rushed to Agra, to Shah Jahan. Shah Jahan applied the Tika, that is a declaration of acceptance of his succession. And once he got the Tika, he was then considered to be the ruler. It was only 2 years after this. He got the Tika in 1638. It was in 1640 that he then decided to get the acceptance of his own clan. But even from 1638 onwards, the taking of acceptance from his own clan was not of priority to Jaswant Singh, because he knew that once the emperor accepted him, he would be accepted as the ruler, and he was. So we know that even Jaswant Singh had become the ruler only after Shah Jahan had applied the Tika to him. So apart from the fact that there was rule of primogeniture to some extent, more important was the ability to rule, and more important than ability to rule was the acceptance of the Mughal monarch, the Tika. So remember this, that by this time it was an accepted practice that if a particular ruler died, the next ruler would be chosen by the emperor himself. जिसको भी मुगल बादशाह टीका लगा देगा वही गद्दी पे बैठेगा, वही माना जाएगा कि वो बैठेगा. दैट वाज अ वेल एस्टैब्लिश्ड फैक्ट. Now, let us come after establishing that this was happening even at the time when um, Jaswant Singh became the ruler. Let us now come to the period when Jaswant Singh died. It was in December 1678 that Jaswant Singh, Maharaja Jaswant Singh, died while he was posted in Afghanistan, Jamrud. At the time when Jaswant Singh died, there were two issues. One, that at the time when he died, he owed certain amount of money to the empire. Secondly, at a time when he died, he did not have an heir apparent. He had no son. The last son of Jaswant Singh, the last surviving son of Jaswant Singh, Prithvi Singh, had already been dead since 1675. So, virtually at the time when Jaswant Singh dies, he dies without leaving a claimant to the throne. But on his death, it was reported that two of his minor wives, remember that Jaswant Singh had 12 wives, and from 12 wives, he had no son at the moment when he died. But two women who are supposed to be his minor wives, or most probably concubines, they were reported to be pregnant. And thus, Aurangzeb, when he was informed of the death, when he was informed that there was no heir to succeed Jaswant Singh, but reportedly there were two women claiming that their yet to be born children were those of Jaswant Singh. Aurangzeb decided to wait. Rani Hadi, in the meanwhile, the chief wife, the first wife of Jaswant Singh, wanted that the tika be conferred on her. She should be declared as the ruler. But Aurangzeb waited. Um, Now, this wait of Aurangzeb has led to much controversy. Um, Although Rani Hadi was very persistent in the demand, that the tika be conferred on her. Aurangzeb decided not to do so because among the Rajputs there was a tradition, and the tradition was that a widow could not be given the charge of the deceased husband. Now remember what happened when Rani of Jhansi took up the arms against the Britishers. She also tried to argue, just like Rani Hardy, that the Britishers should accept her or her son as the ruler. But the Britishers had also maintained that there is no rule to either accept a widow or to accept a minor child. Now there is a question that if there was such a rule that a minor child could not be given a tika, why did Aurangzeb wait? That is also a question. अगर मालूम ही था कि ये रूल नहीं है बच्चे को देने का तो फिर जो कुछ करना था भी कर दिया होता फौरन, लेकिन नहीं किया उन्होंने. We know one thing that soon after the death of Jaswant Singh, certain territories and forts of the late Raja was given to another person. It was given to Askaran. But on getting the news that one of the concubines was pregnant and had actually given birth to a child, Aurangzeb had taken away the fort which had been granted to Askar. यानी जब मरे जसवंत सिंह तो एक किला उनका राव अस्करन को दे दिया गया. कोई सक्सेसर नहीं था. अब बाकी और पूरे एरिया का क्या करेंगे दैट वुड बी डिसाइडेड लेटर. लेकिन कुछ इलाका जो था वो राव अस्करन को, एंड राव अस्करन वाज वन ऑफ द कमांडर्स ऑफ जसवंत सिंह, उनको दे दिया गया. लेकिन जैसे ही औरंगजेब को ये खबर मिली, as soon as he got the news कि नहीं एक बच्चा पैदा हो रहा है, पैदा हो गया, इनफैक्ट अजीत सिंह इज बॉर्न. The name of the child who was born was Ajit Singh. So when the news reached that Ajit Singh has been born, तो जो इन्होंने ग्रांट दिया था किले का अस्करन को, that was resumed. So this resumption shows that probably Aurangzeb was serious in giving the charge to this supposed successor of Jaswant Singh. But then in between another thing happened, and that was that rumors were floated, allegations were put, that this claim that Ajit Singh was actually the son of Jaswant Singh is actually incorrect. He is not the son. तो इनको नहीं देना चाहिए. Now, in this situation, what does Aurangzeb do? Now, if you read Jadunath Sarkar also argues and he agrees. पहले तो औरंगजेब को वो अक्यूज करते हैं, but then he also agrees कि कोई रूल नहीं था. In fact, the rule was against giving the tika to a widow and giving a tika to a small child. तो औरंगजेब जो ये कर रहे थे तो वो एक्चुअली उस रूल को फॉलो कर रहे थे जिस रूल को बाद तक एक्सेप्टेंस मौजूद थी. Now, when this scenario arose, when doubts were raised against the so-called heir who was just a child, a newborn child, um, Aurangzeb now took a step which is much criticized. He ordered the inclusion of Jodhpur into Khalisa. And as soon as Jodhpur was included into Khalisa, there was much problem which arose. The resentment of the Rathores grew. Durgadas Rathore, who was the son of Askaran Rathore, he fled with Ajit Singh and Rani Hadi, who was the chief queen of Jaswant Singh. And Rani Hadi wrote a letter to Aurangzeb that he should not do so. On what ground? In fact, she claimed that no bhumiya so far. Bhumiya means zamindar. You remember that in Abul Fazl's Ain Akbari, when the tables are given, the word zamindar doesn't occur. The term which occurs is bhumiya, which is equivalent to zamindar. So these people claimed that so far no bhumiya had been dispossessed, no watan of any bhumiya had been taken up, resumed. Rathores had given distinguished service to the Mughals. They are being humiliated. And Aurangzeb should abstain from doing this. Durgadas Rathore and another Rathore chieftain, Sona Bhati, they took up the leadership. And much protests were lodged against the inclusion of Jodhpur into Khalisa. They kept on demanding that this order should be resumed. There should be this order of Jodhpur being a Khalisa be revoked and Jodhpur be given to Ajit Singh, the young miner boy. No rebellion occurred. Protests occurred at this moment of time. Now, Jadunath Sarkar, at this moment of time, he writes in his book that actually it was the anti Hindu and anti Rajput policy bias of Aurangzeb, due to which Aurangzeb had taken up Khalisa and not given the Gaddi, Atika, to a person of the choice of the Rajputs. Jadunath Sarkar says that at this particular moment of time, if Ajit Singh's candidature was doubtful, then there was another candidate, Inder Singh, who was also a Mansabdar of the Mughals, one of the military commanders of Aurangzeb, who was also posted in the Deccan. Why was the Tika not given to him? Had Aurangzeb not been anti-Rajput, anti-Hindu, he could have easily given the Tika to Inder Singh. Now, who was Inder Singh? Inder Singh, um, Jadunath Sarkar himself informs us, was a very close relative of the family. He was the son of Amar Singh, the elder brother of Jaswant Singh. And Jadunath says that in view of the loyalty of the Rathores, in view of the great protests which Rathores were making at the time when it was converted into a Khalisa, when Rani Hadi was demanding that it should be given, the Tika should be awarded to her or to her candidate, at that time, had Aurangzeb wanted to diffuse the situation, he could have always given the Tika to Inder Singh, and had he given so, then everything would have become normal. But if you look at the primary sources of the period, it appears that had Aurangzeb done what Jadunath was suggesting, it would lead to more problems. In fact, Aurangzeb did exactly that. It's not only a suggestion, possibly Sir Jadunath Sarkar missed the information which is given in the sources. The suggestion which Jadunath was given was actually what ultimately Aurangzeb did. And as soon as he did that, as soon as he gave the Tika to Inder Singh, the Rathores revolted. Now, why did Jadunath miss out this point? He missed out on this point because the source which gives us information of what happened had not been discovered during the period of Jadunath Sarkar. In fact, all of you know that under the Mughals or during the 17th century, there was a practice of dispatches, newsletters, news reports being sent by spies from one place to another. Such news reports, which were sent from the court to the court of the various officers, and the spy reports from the various officers to the court, they were being written by people known as Waqia Navis. The spies and news reporters who were placed in various in various courts. So, for example, if uh, I was a Mansabdar under the Mughals, I would be having my news reporter in the court, and whatever was happening under my jurisdiction, the imperial news reporter would be sending the report to the court. So there was much to and fro of information, secret reports, which were being exchanged. Today, we are fortunate enough that one such waqaya, known as Waqai Ajmer, which is a part of Waqai Ajmer wa Ranthambore. It's a 2-volume set of reports which had been sent and exchanged between the two courts. Now, this Waqai Ajmer, where this new information is found, at the moment is housed in Asafia Library, Hyderabad. The Department of History, Aligarh Muslim University, has a transcript copy of that Waqai. In fact, very recently, around a few months back, when I started the project of digitizing some of the holdings of our department, we have in fact digitized this. And now, if any one of you who knows Persian and would like to read these waqai, they are welcome, most welcome to visit our library, and you will find a digitized, version of that in PDF preserved in our library, along with the original which is there. Now, these dispatches, these waqaya, give us a first-hand information relating to the events which were taking place in 1679. In fact, 7980, 78, 79, 80. That was the period when all this started happening. And these are the daily news reports, first-hand reports. आज ये हुआ, आज ये हुआ, आज फला ने ये किया, फला आया था, आज ये लेटर लिखा गया, आज ये रिएक्शन हुआ, कल वो हुआ. So these are first-hand reports, daily reports, which tell us about the information. They are very unbiased reports. The Waqia Nigar is noting down the daily happenings and sending them to the imperial court and receiving the reports from the imperial court. Unfortunately, as I said, that at a time when Jadunath Sarkar was doing his monumental work, this Vakaya Ranthambore Vajmer was had not been discovered by then. This was for the first time seen by Professor M. Atharali. And it was Professor M. Atharali, on the basis of whatever is recorded in these Vakai, that he wrote his article which I had discussed.